The term maracatu denotes any of several performance genres found in northeastern Brazil, mainly the states of Pernambuco and Ceará. Main types of maracatu include maracatu de nação, maracatu cearense, and maracatu rural. Maracatu de nação. Maracatu de nação, the most well-known of the maracatu genres, is an Afro-Brazilian performance genre practiced in the state of Pernambuco, mainly in the cities of Recife and Olinda. The term, often shortened simply to nação, refers not only to the performance but to the performing groups themselves. Maracatu de nação's origins lie in the investiture ceremonies of the race de Congo, who were slaves who were granted leadership roles within the slave community by the Portuguese administration. When slavery was abolished in Brazil in 1888, the institution of the kings of Congo ceased to exist. Nonetheless, naçãos continued to choose symbolic leaders and devote coronation ceremonies for those leaders. Although a maracatu performance is secular, traditional naçãos are grouped around Candomblé Jurema-Toreros, and the principles of Candomblé infuse their activities. Traditional naçãos perform by parading with a drumming group of 80 to 100 of singer and chorus, and a coterie of dances and stock characters including a king and a queen. Dances and stock characters dress and behave to imitate the Portuguese royal court of the Baroque period. The performance also enacts pre-colonial African traditions, like parading the Kalunga, a doll representing tribal deities that is kept throughout the year in a special place in the nação's headquarters. The Kalungas, usually female, are traditionally made of either wax and wood or of cloth. They may have clothing made for them in a similar Baroque style to the costumes worn by the other members of the royal court. The Kalunga is sacred, and carrying this spiritual figurehead of the group is a great responsibility for the female dama de Pcoke of the cortege. The musical ensemble consists of alfaia, gong, tarol, quexa de guerra, agbe, and minero. The song form is call and response between a solo singer and a female chorus. Today there are around 20 naçãos operating in the cities of Recife and Olinda, although several have an unbroken line of activity going back to the 19th century. Most have been set up in recent decades. Well-known naçãos include Estrela Brilhante, Leo Coroado, and Puerto Rico. Each year they perform during the carnival period in Recife and Olinda. Maracatu nação Pernambuco, while not a traditional maracatu, was primarily responsible for introducing the genre to overseas audiences in the 1990s. The genre has inspired the establishment of performing groups in a number of cities outside Brazil, including Lisbon, Toronto, Quebec City, New York, Washington, D.C., Cologne, Berlin, Hamburg, Vienna, Lyon, Stockholm, London, Edinburgh, Auckland, Brighton, Madison, Oakland, San Diego, Portland, Manchester, Bristol, Oxford, Melbourne and Brisbane. Maracatu cearense. Maracatu cearense is Fortaleza's variant of the maracatu de nação. Brought to Fortaleza, Ceará in 1936, maracatu cearense has since been cultivated as the city's most distinctive carnival performance tradition, owing in part to its use of blackface makeup to enact Afro-Brazilian characters and male-to-female transvestitism of the important female personages, particularly the Queen. Its rhythms are described locally as cadenciado, cadenced, which amounts to a less syncopated, steadier two-quarters timeline and a slower tempo than is found in the maracatu de nação of Pernambuco, sometimes as slow as 45 beats per minute. In recent decades, groups have tended to divide into those that retain the slow tempo and those that speed up the tempos, and there is some dispute over which style most authentically expresses the tradition in Ceará. Standard instrumentation is also distinctive. Instead of alpha ear drums, the cearense tradition uses surdo or bombo drums. Like Pernambuco, it uses the tarol or snare drum. Instead of the gong, large single-head bell, Maracatu cearense uses the ferro, a heavy iron slab triangle, to keep its steady double rhythm. Individual groups often add to or slightly modify this setup to create their own distinct sound. Every year, different Maracatu cearense nations parade in Fortaleza's traditional municipal carnival competition, normally taking place at Domingo's Olimpio Avenue. The oldest nation, Arizona do Ouro, founded in 1936, is still in operation. Other nations include Vozes d'Africa, Nação Fortaleza, Rei de Paus, Nação Iracema, and Maracatu Solar. The use of blackface in Maracatu cearense reportedly stems from Fortaleza's mostly white and caboclo demographic, and its small black population, which affects a situation where mostly white and brown bodies end up performing a traditionally black expression of Brazilian carnival. Blackface in this context is intended to pay homage to the African slaves' contribution to Brazilian civilization and is not viewed as a racist expression. In fact, some Maracatu cearense nations are actively involved in racial equality and black consciousness initiatives in Ceará. Among these is Nação Iracema, founded in 2002 by Lucia Simão and William Augusto Pereira, heads of the first black family in Fortaleza to direct a Maracatu nation. Lucia Simão also founded Ceará's first black consciousness movement in the early 1980s. This consciousness of racial equality operates through Maracatu cearense performance in part as a continuation of Ceará's historical identity as the first region in Brazil to abolish slavery. In May 1884, contrary to the claims of most Maracatu cearense participants, at least one Brazilian scholar sees the development of the tradition in Fortaleza to be intimately tied to a subtle racist discourse in Ceará that has mythologized itself as a non-black region of Brazil, perpetuating Brazil's long-standing racist ideology of skin whitening. Maracatu rural, rooted in the Pernambucan interior, is also known as Maracatu de Baque Salto, Maracatu de Orquesta, and Maracatu de Trombone. Although it shares its name with the Maracatu de Nação found in that state's cities, it is substantially different in terms of narrative, practice and instrumentation. It evolved in the early 20th century as a fusion of pre-existing forms of carnival revelry. It is considered to be Afro-Indigenous in origin. Its members, typically sugarcane workers, are involved in the native-influenced Catimbo religion. Maracatu rural has a high participation rate with dozens of groups in operation.